Hey everybody, this is Sheri with Nourish Your Life, author of Go Forward, 28 Days to Eat, Move, and Enjoy Life God's Way. Today I am talking with a dear friend of mine about delegating and how that relates to energy, how that relates to stress, obviously, but even just how it relates to improving your life overall and how to do it. And she is an expert in this. In fact, as I let her introduce herself, she may be a little too shy to introduce this part, or humble, I should say. This woman has a doctorate in exceptional learning. And before we got on, we were joking about the fact that I'm kind of washed out with the lighting today and that I need a halo over me. No, Hannah actually needs a halo over her because of her doctorate in exceptional learning. So Hannah, take it away. Tell everybody about you.
Wow, Sheri, thank you so much. Yes, I'm Dr. Hannah Rawiszer. And I do have a PhD in exceptional learning. That's under the umbrella of education. And currently, right now, though, after all of my years of being in the classroom and teaching, also working for nonprofits as an executive administrative assistant, I have chosen to start a business. And that business, yes, it's very exciting. That business is barely even, has broken ground. It's fresh this year. And it comes off of, working in a capacity virtually at my previous 9 to 5. And it focuses mostly on being a virtual assistant in an executive administrative capacity for busy people, busy individuals, busy professionals, busy business owners. So that's what I'm.
So definitely a lot of years of experience being delegated to, learning how to delegate, and how that then frees up someone to be their best. So I'm going to just go ahead and dive in with some questions. In your years of experience in this, I was going to say Hannah, but maybe I should say Dr. Hannah. Dr. Hannah, what has been some of the key learnings, key takeaways, key stories of when people choose to delegate, when they choose to let their fingers go a little bit on something, that it impacts their energy? Any thoughts?
Well, sure. I mean, just the mere fact that when you are trying to do everything for yourself, taking on every role, maybe as a business owner or just as a manager in itself, it's hard enough being a leader, right? In whatever job you do, whatever role you work in your business. So it's hard enough to do that. And there's a lot of added pressure and stress that comes with even just that role in itself. So if you're just one of those people that has to do everything for yourself, sometimes, if you notice, maybe you're not the greatest at that specific task that you're taking on, like the greatest skill, that you may not be completely competent in that area, but you're still trying to do it anyway. That can add a lot of stress too, because there's frustration there. If you're trying to do something that maybe you just don't know how to do, it's taking up a lot of your time. That's money in your pocket, taking all that time to do something when you could be out there making money, moving forward with your business. So much is involved in our energy, because when we're tired and we're exhausted and we're taking on too much and we're trying to do too much, then we don't have that energy for the work itself, or even just to balance with your family or whoever else is important in your life. I mean, work is important, but it's not everything, right?
Yeah.
So really, so many people just have a hard time balancing that, where to put your energy. And so, yeah, I mean, that's, from my experience.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of balance that goes into that when you try to do everything yourself.
So you mentioned a key word there, and that's stress. So it's a matter of energy, both energy conservation and doing those things that you love. In fact, I'm going to take over here for a second. And in fact, when we talked before, because what brought this up was Hannah and I were having a conversation, and in that conversation, we just saw so much overlap in what we do, even though she's a virtual assistant and I'm a health coach and wellness speaker. But because we're both helping people find their path to live their maximum potential, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many synergies here. We really need to have this conversation and let everybody else in on the conversation. Well, as we were talking about the energy piece of that, it reminded me of when I was at Vandy for 12 years. And Hannah, if I've told you this story, pardon me, but I'll let everybody else hear this story now. My supervisor had me do a -3 to +3 rating of what things were giving me energy and what things were just sucking the life out of me, because I was coming into work every day really tired, and I was doing the things I knew to do physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually to have energy. But a key piece was I looked at things that they were a -3, they were a -2, and recognizing these are things that somebody else could do even better because they were sucking my energy out of me. But you mentioned stress. You know, some of it was these things were stressful, and some of them I didn't necessarily feel stress, but they weren't giving me energy. They weren't giving me life. On the stress, think about a story. I'd love to hear a story, and this doesn't have to even be with your current business, but even just through years of working in nonprofits and things like that, times that you've seen people go, and they've just relieved the stress once they've handed something off to you as their executive assistant or whatever roles that you were playing with them.
I have so many stories of that. And really, not even like you said, in an executive administrative capacity. When I was I worked at a PBS station here in Tennessee for a few years. And just to give you an example, and this is just coming from me personally, like how I help someone. And that's just my nature. But I was promoted from the executive administrative position into the director of education position there at the PBS station because of my background in education, my PhD. So appropriately, I was put into this role. Well, there hadn't been a director of education in that role since the GM, who had been in the GM position for at least over a decade or more, wow, had served in that capacity there. So one of the women who worked in that education office, she was wonderful. She had over 20 years of experience as an educator, as a teacher. She was just absolutely wonderful, but she didn't have a certain skill set really for delegating work to other people. You know, she was a wonderful classroom teacher. She's so great at what she does. But as far as like, you know, filling out grant writing applications and grant reports and things that she had to do because she was managing, you know, a project that was actually grant funded there. So she really needed help in so many different ways. And so when I came in, I can't begin to tell you, probably those first couple of weeks, she would come to my desk and she would it was a sigh. It was just like, I'm so glad you're here because you're relieving us and you're giving us some leadership, you know, because they didn't have anything there. And I'll tell you one other really quick story recently. You know, I've been starting my business, trying to get clients, you know, build up the client base. And so I was on the phone with a very close friend of mine in the very beginning, early stages. And we were just discussing the business and who she might know, who she could refer to me. You know, we were talking about what I do. And as we're talking, she was telling me a little bit about, you know, she's like, you know, I'm writing a children's book. I just decided to start writing a children's book. But she was like, I'll tell you what, Hannah, the research component of trying to figure out how to publish the book and what the process is and royalties and what do I do? She's like, it's just giving me heart palpitations. It's really stressing me out. And she was like, is that something you think you could do? And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. And so all of a sudden she became a client for a project. And the minute like I even just started doing anything or we had like our next conversation, I could just hear the stress that just came off of her because she didn't know she needed to delegate this. It was giving her a lot of stress. She knew she had to do this research. But just having the conversation opened up the door to say, hey, I think I need some help. Mm-hmm. Those are great. Pretty good examples. I know I jumped around there a little bit.
Yeah.
But
well, it helps understand, actually leading into another question I have, because the examples you gave related to people doing what only they can do. And when there's that relief of, okay, somebody else is doing the research on this, or somebody else is doing the emails on this, or somebody else is doing the whatever, it frees the person up theoretically to do what only they can do. Do you find that that's true?
At 100%.
Yeah, and so it's that maximum potential thing in our initial conversation that started this one was, okay, people can't live their maximum potential if I'm trying to do everything. I can't be my best me, but I can be my best me if I'm focused just on my best stuff. Yay? Nay?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, I even think back to my teaching days. You know, I taught for a decade or more, high school. And, you know, that job is so stressful. And really, I don't even promote myself to teachers because I was one. And I know teachers like to really do everything themselves. Also, they don't have enough money really to hire another person to help them, like a virtual assistant. But, you know, teachers really do take control and they do everything. But I remembered back to having students who were always wanting to help. And so I would delegate, hey, could you, you know, as soon as they took a quiz in class, I trusted a student, I would hand over a stack of quizzes with the key and I would let the kid, you know, go ahead and do that for me, you know, grade the papers, because it was one less thing that I had to do.
Yes.
Because being a teacher is, you know, can be manic and very stressful sometimes. There's a lot to do. So yeah. It's that understanding how to be effective in your life by delegating whatever work you can to people who you can trust. There's an accountability, there's dependability, there's that trust, you know, that you give over that task to someone and you know it's going to get done.
So actually that brings up two questions. One is how to figure out what to delegate. Hey, breaking in to remind you to subscribe so that you get all of these videos, and let me know if you like this format, if you like the interview style, and if so, give me a thumbs up and put in the comments the types of topics that you would like me to interview people on to help you in your healthy living. Thanks so much, and let's get back to the interview with Hannah. Back to that bandy story where my boss gave me the opportunity to do a -3 to +3 of, okay, here are the tasks that I do. What are the ones that suck the life out of me? And what are the ones that add life to me? We didn't have we had a lean staff. So I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have somebody to delegate to, like as a teacher, you were just delegating to a student. But we were able to find ways to swap things around, that what was on somebody else's plate that would put into my tank, that took out of their tank, we could swap some things around. The question is, though, bottom line, how do you tell what you should delegate?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You know, you can monitor the work that you're doing and see how long it takes you to do something. If it is a seriously time-consuming task for you, then you might want to consider passing it off to somebody else who you can trust, who's competent enough to take that task off your plate. Even if they don't know how to do it, you know, it might be a good opportunity. Depends on the work situation or who you're working with, but you know, it might be a good opportunity to even teach somebody a new skill. You know, maybe they're really good at that. You know, maybe. And they wouldn't know it until they were given that opportunity. So in like an employee-employer situation, that might be helpful for the employee to learn a new skill and add that to their resume. But really, I think it's just about monitoring what is taking up time. So, and it also depends on your end goal. I mean, if you own a business, you're a business owner, and your goal is to move your business forward, how are you able to move your business forward and focus on what you do best? You know, maybe it's reaching out to new people or bringing in new people, you know, to your business. Well, how can you do that if your time is being taken up by tasks that you could better delegate to somebody else? Also, you know, are the tasks administrative? I mean, it just depends. You know, if you're not, you know, in that role in your business or as an employer, definitely give it to somebody else who has administrative, you know, capacity and who can do that for you. So that's obviously where a virtual assistant comes in, you know, because most of us have that. We're not all administrative. You know, there are so many different types of VAs out there who do wonderful work in different areas and specific tasks. And then also, I think, is the task repeatable? That's the one that I get a lot.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Something that's done like all the time. Like I have a client and that they have these monthly and weekly meetings, and they have to do these reports for the meetings. So that's just something that's taking up their time. you know, when they could teach somebody else how to do it, and that person can do that probably really fast, get it to them, and it's done, you know, in a deadline. So there's just a couple of different things that you consider, you know, when you're like, hey, is this something I can delegate?
Yeah, that's very helpful, because that is when you've got your hands around something. And in fact, it's really funny that we're having this conversation, because somebody in my mastermind group a couple of weeks ago, he is not wanting to delegate some things because he wants things done a certain way, but something that's repeatable. Okay, that means he can train somebody, and after a couple of times, they're doing it the way he wants it done. So even for him, something that is, you know, would free up his energy, would free up take away his stress if he was able to give that away. That's what I'm trying to say on that. Mm-hmm. So any parting thoughts on delegating, energy, stress, anything?
I just think it's a very critical thing for people to consider, because really we're inundated right now. You know, all of us actually, I think, have become even more tired and probably more zapped of our energy, because we spend our days now even just constantly in front of a blue screen. You know, we've got the Zoom calls, we're all in our emails, you know, our phones, everything is taking up all of that energy out of us. So I think it's critical right now to really kind of reevaluate the work that we're doing, and it's okay to ask somebody for help. It's okay to reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you do this? I mean, the person that you just described, I understand that. You know, I've had that streak in me too, of where I've had students say, hey, can I help you with this? I'm like, nope, I got it. I got to do it, you know, because really it's in our nature to want to make sure that something's done right, you know. But if we just take that little extra time and teach somebody who is competent enough to take care of it, or maybe their skill set is even greater than ours. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they're better at something. I mean, I even forgot to mention that, you know, like what if you need all these documents password protected and you have no idea how to do it? You do not have the time to even figure out how to do it. We'll find somebody who can do that for you, you know? Mm-hmm. So really it's about just figuring out the best way to conserve our energy for the things that we really have to do, those high priority tasks. Yeah. And what really needs to get done by us and you know, you alone.
Parting thought on my end, you said something that I come to as I talk with people. You said it's okay to ask for help. How many times has somebody hesitated coming to me as a health coach because they feel like, well, you know, what's wrong with me? I'm not, you know, stupid. Why can't I eat healthy and go for a walk and make this, you know, a healthy lifestyle shift? Well, it's okay to ask for help. It's not that you're a dumb person or a bad person or whatever just because you need help. We are human. We all need help. We can't do it all. We can't know it all. So we have to work together. So anyway, those are my parting thoughts. Hannah, thank you so much. If somebody wants to delegate to you, they say, yeah, I have to have somebody to delegate to, and I don't need to do a search for it. Here's somebody I can use. How do they get in touch with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so they can find me at Hannah Rawiszer. That's a little complicated name there, but my business name is Helping Hannah Professional Services. I also, that can be found as well on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook under that name and my personal name, but you can find my business there. And you can also find me on the internet. You can find my website, and it is helpinghannahpro.com.
helpinghannahpro.com. Cool.
Yeah. Sheri, this has been really great, because really we are alike in many ways. We are both helping people, you know, and really it is just about, you know, and I want to get back to what you just said very briefly about people asking for help. I think a lot of times, you know, I struggled with it too. I mean, you know, here I am, a proponent of it, you know, helping people, but I've also struggled with it, just me asking somebody for help, you know, and I think it makes us vulnerable, you know, and we just lose that control over our situation, and we don't want to appear that way to other people. But there are plenty of people like you and I who are out there ready to help people, you know, with those time consuming tasks, get back their energy, get back their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing I think that both of us provide people is
Yeah.
getting back their lives, and what's most important to them. So yeah, I
Very
appreciate
cool.
this conversation very much, Sheri.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. Until next time, find your path and fulfill your potential.